What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Wow.
Come on, wait. I do this shit with no pressure. Run up the backers and put up the extra. You cannot step up the steppers. You can't put dirt on a nigga that's clean.
Today I'm going to be discussing my top upgrades to do to a Jeep that is new to you or brand new, and kind of the reasons why these are some of the upgrades that I would opt for. Now, the Jeep market is very, very vast. As most of you know, I'm sure there's some of you that Jeeps are new to you and you're not quite sure exactly what the best companies are or what the best things you should look for are going to be. And it'll kind of vary depending on what model Jeep you purchased. Obviously, the Rubicon being a higher price from a dealer, it comes with a handful of options that, say, the Sport and Sahara models will not offer. But I'm going to try and keep it simple and keep it broad so that you guys, no matter which option that you guys purchased, you're able to get something from this video, and hopefully it'll help you in some of your purchasing. The very first thing that I want to say, regardless of the model of Jeep that you bought, the best advice that you can have, in my opinion, is to do it right the first time. And obviously everybody is working on their own budgets, and it's different for everybody, so that's why you see so many different types of builds. But my best advice I can give you is, before you purchase something because it's cheaper or because you can get it for a good deal, make sure it's what you want. Because saving a couple $100s now and settling for something when you really want something else, trust me, you're going to end up spending that money anyways later down the road, and basically you're going to be losing money on it. Now, for the first purchase that I would look at, and this is really for basically any Jeep, obviously if it's going to vary depending on what you intend to do with it, so you want to make sure that you're on the same page with yourself, and kind of what your intentions are for the build. Is it just a daily driver? Do you want something that looks nice but it's not really going to leave the road? And again, to each their own. It's your build. I'm not the type of person that's going to tell you, oh, you bought a Jeep but you don't go off-road with it. It's not my money. I don't care what you do with it. So there's different ways to look at it from that perspective as well. If you do intend to off-road your Jeep and you want to get into the off-roading world, I think one of the first things that you should look into getting is actually going to be a winch. So I think winches are very important because it allows a form of self-recovery when you're out on a trail. No matter what size wheels, tires, lift, everything, a winch is always going to be a helpful tool, whether it's, again, rescuing yourself or somebody else that might be stuck on an obstacle or on a trail that you need to help get unstuck and pull them out, or even yourself. So I think investing in a good winch, preferably synthetic rope, is what I would look for. But again, investing in a good winch is something that you're going to use, and even if you don't use it for yourself, I guarantee you that you will end up using it for somebody else as you continue to explore off-road and get more and more into it. And now this is where it kind of differs between if you have the Rubicon versus the Sport or the Sahara. A lot of the Rubicon models, not all of them, but a lot of them come with winch-capable bumpers, basically the steel option. So you don't even have to buy a new bumper. You can basically get a winch, get a couple of plates to mount it into that bumper, and then you're good to go. Whereas for the Sports and Saharas, this is where you're going to have to get or look at getting a new front bumper that will accept a winch. There's different types, though. Again, the Jeep market, there's so many options and so much to know that if you're new to this, it can be very, very confusing, and you don't know exactly what to look for, what you want. But the three common types of front bumpers that you have are going to be your full-width bumpers, your mid-width, and then your stubby bumpers. A full-width bumper is basically exactly as it sounds. It's full width. The bumper that comes on your Jeep from the factory is full width. It covers underneath the grill, and then it sticks out and basically in front of your tires. A mid-width is a little bit narrower option. It can still somewhat cover the front of the tire, or cover the tires a little bit from the front, but it's not as drastic. But I think the most common option that people go for and opt for, and actually what I'm running on my Jeep, is a stubby option. And the reason that a lot of people, and I think stubby bumpers are probably the most common in the off-road world specifically, is it allows you more articulation and clearance for larger tires without your bumper interfering. Obviously, depending on what size tires you run will kind of determine that. But like I said, the stubby option is probably your most common. And as far as brands go, and brands that I think you should look into or look at that are reputable brands, reputable companies that really put out great products, my number one, and I'm not sponsored by anybody, I don't get paid to say it, but my number one brand that I'd recommend would be Motobilt. They are located in Alabama, so everything that they make is made in the USA, and so it's always good to support companies that are here in the States. But they truly put a lot of engineering and effort into all of their products, and so the fit, the durability of all of their products are top notch in my opinion. You will find options that are cheaper, for instance, like a Smittybilt or a DV8, and there's nothing wrong with those companies necessarily. However, there's a reason that they're a little bit less expensive. The finishes aren't as nice. The product themselves, the fitment isn't as good or is up to standards with some of the bigger companies. And again, like I said, Motobilt's probably my number one. But then there's other companies too, like Genrite makes very, very good products, and they actually offer most of their stuff in an aluminum option, which the aluminum is a benefit because it's lightweight. Obviously, if you get a bunch of armor, you're running bumpers, you're running tires, bigger stuff, your Jeep gets heavy, and if all that stuff is steel, it can weigh down on the vehicle some. But the aluminum is more expensive, so keep that in mind if that's the route that you're trying to go and you're worried about weight savings and that sort of thing. But then there's also companies like Poison Spider that are a well-known company, and they make just about anything as far as armor goes and that sort of thing. So like I said, if you were looking into a bumper and want to do something along, get some sort of bumper for your Jeep, again, Motobilt, Genrite, Poison Spider are all great places to start. As far as winches go, I truly think a winch can potentially be a life-saving tool, depending on what kind of off-roading you're doing and how serious you get. Obviously, if you're just doing some mild trails, you don't necessarily, at least in my opinion, you don't need to invest a whole lot of money into a winch. But again, it goes back to the spend the money once. So if you're kind of thinking, I just want to ease into the off-roading type of lifestyle, and I'm going to do some trails and whatever, but nothing crazy, but at some point I might want to, once the Jeep's a little bit more capable, that's where you have to kind of figure out, okay, do I want to save a little bit of money and buy a cheaper winch, or do I want to buy something that I know is going to last? I personally, you cannot go wrong with Warren winches. Just about anybody you ask, most of the people that you'll see on social media and YouTube that will have a Warren winch, and the reason is their reputation. You don't want to go with a company that has issues with their winches, because when it comes time to need it and it's not working right, or it breaks or something along those lines, it could really put somebody's life in danger. So a Warren winch is truly the best route to go when it comes to the winch industry. And again, I prefer synthetic, but there's steel options that are good. Synthetic's just a little bit safer. And yeah, and there's a bunch of different models within the Warren catalog that will allow you to hopefully find something that's great quality, but also be able to meet your budget requirements and kind of what you're looking to spend on it. Obviously, a lot of people will say, oh, you need to get tires, you need to get a lift, you need to get, and yes, I would agree that those things will help, especially with off-roading, and they'll definitely improve the look of your Jeep as a whole. And so those are very common things that I see people saying is, oh, you need to get a lift and wheels and tires right away, and that'll make it better. And there's some truth to that, but again, you want to make sure that if you only have so much money to spend and you don't have the money to get the lift kit you want, but you want to be able to go off-road still, if you get hung up on a rock because you're not high enough or tall enough with your lift, or your tires don't provide enough ground clearance, or whatever it may be, a winch is going to be able to get you out of those situations. Another thing that people often overlook that goes in hand with that is skid plates for the bottom of your Jeep. There's a lot of companies out there that make different types of skid plates. I personally am running the Artec Industries aluminum skid plate on my JL, and I love it. It's a complete replacement of the crappy thin what is of a factory skid plate that's there. It doesn't really cover a whole lot. The factory skid plate doesn't really cover a whole lot, but the upgraded skid plate really protects the underneath of the Jeep, everything from your oil pan to your gas tank to your transmission, transfer case, everything like that. And again, if you get stuck and hung up on a rock and you're winching out, it helps to have a skid plate that's there that's going to protect the bottom as it's dragging you through rocks or dragging you through mud or dragging you through whatever it may be that you're stuck in or on. And again, it's really prolonging the life of those mechanical parts on your Jeep. Again, if you crack an oil pan, if you crack your transmission, all those things are possible depending on the type of terrains that you're in. And trust me, nobody in the past has ever tried to do any of those things or intended to do any of those things, but it has happened to people out there. So it's basically you're preventing those issues from arising and really trying to keep your Jeep as safe as possible. Another thing is rock sliders. I would highly recommend that you look into getting a quality set of rock sliders. Now, if you have a Rubicon, it already comes with rock sliders. They're not the best, but they're better than nothing and better than what comes on a Sport or Sahara. The Sport or Saharas, they typically are just plastic steps that come on them. Those are not going to provide any protection if you drag them across a rock. If anything, they will bend and break, and you'll end up hitting into your body and the tub, and potentially could lead to denting a door. Again, depending on what you're doing. So I would look into getting some rock sliders. So if you have a Rubicon, those are good enough. Those will work for a good while, until you start getting into some more serious stuff, and you might want to upgrade to something that protects more of the door, and get some like door skins and that sort of thing to help protect that sheet metal that's there. But for the sport and the Sahara owner, I would definitely look into whether, even if you wanted to save some money and you wanted to buy somebody's takeoffs from their Rubicon, they had a Rubicon but they immediately put some different sliders on them or whatever, you could probably get those for a relatively low price. Or again, the companies I mentioned before, Moto-Built, Genrite, Poison Spider, they all offer their own options as well that are very good quality. And again, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing item. Trust me, if they're done right, they look good and they don't look bad, but they're not a lift, they're not wheels, they're not going to draw somebody's eye to your vehicle, but it really is going to help protect your vehicle as you venture off-road and start getting into some more technical and serious wheeling situations. Another thing that you might want to look into, and again, it depends. If you went ahead and got a lift kit, then a lot of them come with sway bar disconnects. And for a factory Jeep, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how much it will help off-road with the factory springs and shock absorbers that come on it. However, and again, this is for the Sport and Saharas. The Rubicons have the electronic sway bar disconnect, but if you have the Sport or Sahara, you might look into getting some disconnects for your front sway bar, and that will allow your Jeep to flex. It will allow your body to roll off-road. It'll be a smoother ride off-road, as well as it will allow your tires to maintain traction when you pull up onto a rock on the right side, and it lets the left side go down to the ground versus trying to flip it, and it can get really teeter-tottery in some situations. So I would look into potentially getting those. Again, if you get a lift kit, most of them come with sway bar link, that sway bar links that are extended, and most of them are also the quick disconnect option. So basically, you pull off road, you ready to hit the trail, take out a little pin, pull the link out, you're good to go. Before you get back on the road, put the link back in, put the pin back in, and you're good. And it keeps it stiff when you're on the highway, but allows for that flex and again body roll when you're off road. Another upgrade that I'm very happy that I did, that it's not anything crazy, it's nothing fancy at all. It is the 6-7 Designs phone mount. I use it every time I get in the Jeep, and I've had it for probably 2 years now, and no issues. It hasn't broke. It's great quality. It's a metal, I guess, holder for where your phone actually hooks to, with some foam to protect your phone, keep it from getting scratched up, keep it from vibrating and that sort of thing, keep it from sliding. And then the arm itself is actually carbon fiber, but it's something, every time I drive the Jeep, I use it. Every single time I get in, I put my phone right there. It keeps it up, whether it's using it for maps, whether it's using it for a phone call or whatever. Your phone stays right there. When you're off road, you're bouncing around, you're doing stuff, it doesn't move, it's not going anywhere, you know where it's at. It's not falling into the crevasses right next to your seat, or anything like that. So I would highly recommend that. So again, I think those are probably my top, I don't know, what is that, 5 or 6 upgrades that I would look into for your new Jeep. Just because for all the reasons I gave you. I mean, everybody has their own opinions and their own ideas of, oh, I should get a light bar. Oh, I need to get this. Oh, I need to get that. Rock lights. And there's trust me, there's things that look cool that you definitely want. And I have most of those things. But if you're starting out and you really are new to the Jeep market, the Jeep industry, but you're wanting to build a Jeep that's capable and you want to be able to expose yourself to the outdoors and off-road as soon as possible, those are definitely some things that I would consider purchasing. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. Feel free to comment down below. I would love to hear some of your guys' opinions on them. But I think that those are probably the first upgrades that you should look at doing. The obvious wheels, tires, and a lift kit, I think, are kind of a given at this point. Most people buy their Jeeps because they want to run bigger tires, lift them, and do that sort of thing. But some of these other upgrades that I mentioned, I feel like are sometimes overlooked because they don't add to the cool factor of your Jeep, but they truly are the most useful things that you can add to them. And again, depending on your budget, can kind of determine where you start and where you're at and how fast you can move along with it. But yeah, I really hope this helps some of you guys out there that are just getting into the Jeep market and we're looking for some guidance and help along the way of purchasing your next upgrades and kind of how to go about it. And again, I'll reiterate from the beginning, the best thing that you can do is spend the money one time. If you want a certain lift, save up a little bit more and get that lift. Don't settle because, oh, this one was on sale or I get this one for cheaper and it's the same height. The prices in the market, there's a reason for the difference. There's ways to get things done, and then there's ways to do things the right way. So keep that in mind when you're looking for new products to buy for your Jeep. And again, if you have any questions or want to know more, or if you agree with me or don't agree with me, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to respond and get back to you guys. This video was actually, somebody requested, they wanted to know what they should do to their Jeep. A new subscriber, Landon, he commented on one of my videos, and so that's why this video is being put out. So again, if you found any of this information helpful, I'd love to know. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you're new here. If you're not new here, I'm sure this video was probably a little boring for you and you didn't make it this far. But I appreciate all the continued support, and I will see you guys in the next video.